So for today's speaker, I want to also thank SU for providing the opportunity for our speaker to come. And Robbie Sheehan is going to do the introduction. Robbie is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Salisbury University, and also involved in our advocacy division within the chamber, and a vital part in our recent successes within advocacy, and also providing speakers for Lunch and Learn. So, Robbie.
Wow. I don't know if I deserve that introduction, but my name is Robbie Sheehan, and I'm just really excited about the energy in the community. I think we can all feel it. We've got an institutional alignment, we've got the political alignment, we've got the will to make something happen, and really excited about the opportunity to have this discussion today. This past summer at the Mako conference, I had the opportunity to listen to Jason Broadwater, who was the keynote speaker. He's a downtown revitalization expert and consultant. Thought he'd be a great individual to bring to the community and kind of ignite the conversation and bring some ideas. So we've been trekking together for the past 2 days, and I've been showing him around town and meeting with different community groups and organizations. And this is actually the last one. So he's had the opportunity for the past 48 hours to digest Salisbury, and he's going to share some thoughts with us. So, Jason, take it away. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate y'all having me here. I've had a wonderful time in Salisbury the last few days. I was able to be downtown a good bit. I ate at the Cellar Door for lunch. I ate at Evo for dinner. Ate at Sobo for dinner last night. So I feel like I've been trying to experience as much as I can. I was at the coffee shop this morning downtown. I've been staying on campus at the university, and I've met with a lot of folks in the last couple of days. You know, obviously it's just a tiny fraction of who all is in the community, but it's been a good, just a lot of different perspectives. So I really appreciated that. And I talk about, we have some seats over here, sir, if you're... I talk about revitalization for downtowns. And I do projects that have to do with that. So, you know, the future of the small town economy, in my opinion, is based on the revitalization of the downtown. There's a lot of reasons why this is true. You know, basically one of them is because of a cultural shift that we're experiencing. And this is in a macro sense. I mean, you know, as macro as you can get from the human experience. If you look at the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, thank you, and then now we're in what I call the connectivity revolution. Everything is changing. You know, and this is something that's going to affect all of our lives. And there are several things that are indicative of this shift in culture, and these are the three that I think are the most important to focus on. And one is urbanism. Globally, the planet is rapidly urbanizing. In the United States, what that looks like is not just that LA and New York are getting bigger, but it's that small towns are rediscovering their urban districts. You know, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, our whole culture was based on people walking around in urban districts and working and interacting in those spaces. And then the automobile, the interstates, big box retail, the mall phenomenon, all of this radically changed the way we develop cities. We've been developing cities for the past 50 years to try to move the automobile around efficiently as possible. Look at 5013, or however y'all call it, that bypass to go from the university. I've been driving down from the university to downtown. That road, the only purpose of that road is to get the automobile as quickly as possible from one point to another. And you can pull in on frontage development on either side of that road. It's developed all the way down, occupying all the frontage of that road. In Rock Hill, we've got two different roads that have big box development on them. One is Cherry Road, and it's just like that road. It was developed all the way out to the interstate so that you could more effectively get to Charlotte and get to the malls. And it was strip mall developed all the way down. And it was really ugly until recently. They've been doing improvements, putting in trees and stuff. We've got another road called Dave Law Boulevard. It wasn't developed during those years. Instead, it was developed later. And that's where all the nicer stuff is now, all the Target and Best Buy and all that kind of stuff. But what they did is, when you drive down it, it's got a big green separator in between the two. It's green and there's nothing beside you until you get to an entrance. You turn into that entrance, and it's got all the big box retail positioned in there and turned sideways and everything. And you park and you get out and you walk. You walk into Target, you walk into Best Buy, you walk to the little ice cream place, get the kids some ice cream, you walk. It's like a little downtown. We're rediscovering the power of walkable urbanism. You know, the second part of this whole cultural shift and phenomenon is the internet. And the internet is really what's making all of this possible. I mean, I wrote a novel about Western North Carolina in the 1880s. And in Western North Carolina, the train came to Western North Carolina in the 1880s. And the train changed everything. Because there was no economy in Asheville, really. It was just a pass-through town because you had to bring your agriculture through, you know, your pigs through or whatever. But you had to go somewhere else to participate in a growing economy. Well, the train changed that. It was the connective piece that connected you to a larger economy. And that's what the internet's doing. You can be here and you can work for anybody anywhere in the world because of the internet. You know, I've got an internet marketing company down in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and we didn't go to Charlotte. We stayed in Rock Hill. Now we have 10 full-time employees and work for people all over the country out of Rock Hill. It's a 65,000 person city with a tiny little downtown. And we run our business there because we can, because of the internet. It's the depot, you know. The other is a social consciousness. You know, the baby boom generation tended, and these are generalities, of course, but tended to go into business and make their money, and then when you retire, then you can get involved in philanthropy. And you can help the community and give back. Well, the millennial generation doesn't really think about it that way, right? The millennial generation needs instant gratification. The millennial generation wants to do it now. They want to build their business in the context of social consciousness. You look at Tom's, the guy that sells the shoes, you know, and every time you buy a pair of shoes, they give a pair of shoes to a child that needs shoes somewhere in the world. He's not successful in spite of giving away so many shoes. He's successful because he gives away so many shoes. That level of social consciousness is ingrained into the millennial age entrepreneur. They want to create a business that's positive in the environment, socially and ecologically or whatever. It's positive in nature. That's a big part of this shift. So you have urbanism, the internet, and social consciousness being huge factors in why the revitalization of downtowns have such a big impact on the future of our economies. And the depot economy is the second piece. The depot economy, again, is that what I was talking about, how the internet connects everything, and you can work in a local, regional, national, or global economy from anywhere. Forbes released a study about the independent workforce that said that up to 40% of the workforce in the United States by 2020 will be independent contracted, self-employed, or freelance workers. Up to 40%. I mean, that is incredible. So the idea that you go to work for a big company, you move to wherever your job takes you because you got a raise, you get a company, and you... Oh, he's making me stand here, I'm sorry. The idea that you move to a big company because you got a raise, you move your roots, you move there, and you stay there for the long term of your career is just gone. You know, it's just gone. The idea that you create your job as you go, that you create work, that you work for this company and that company, your employers change, you're really self-controlled, that is the new economy. You know, so the independent workforce, and then the whole concept of thinking globally, acting locally. You see this everywhere. You see it in farm to table restaurants. Everybody wants to buy local, eat local food, local organic food. Restaurants that serve local stuff. We're going back to that. This is where we came from. You know, this is before we became the global society that things get shipped from all over the world and nothing ever goes out of season. You know, we're going back to some of this stuff that's about localism. And that is big with the millennial generation. And I reference the millennial generation a lot, not to ostracize baby boomers, but to recognize the fact that over the next 30 years, the millennial generation is our economy. That is the workforce. Right? So this is the environment that the millennial generation is functioning in and creating. So if you have a cultural shift going on that's moving back towards walkable urbanism, and you have a depot economy where you can be anywhere, you can stay in your hometown, and you can work in the global economy, the national economy, regional economy, whatever it is. And then you have this aspect of quality of life, and we cannot underestimate the power of quality of life. Everybody wants a quality of life. Everybody. But the millennial generation has an interesting twist on that concept where it comes first before professionalism in business. I'm going to move to a town that is fun and interesting and nice, and then I'm going to figure out how to make a living. That is indicative of the millennial generation. And it's starting to spread through all generations. When you look at relocation of manufacturing, used to it was nothing but tax incentives, interstates, and proximity to the airport, right? Well, or maybe cluster industries or something, but that was what it was all about. What's the biggest tax break the state can offer? Now, introducing itself into that equation are the executives' opinions on the cultural urban environment of the place to which they're locating. I don't want to move there if it doesn't have anything to do. If there aren't restaurants and cultural activity and a vibrant urban space, I don't want to live there. So I'm the decision maker of relocating this manufacturing firm, and I don't want to go there, even if there are tax incentives, right? So the quality of life piece is huge. It's affecting everything. So, if you look at the critical factors in downtown success, the single critical factor, I believe, is talent recruitment and retention. And I'll show you why. It's basically, if you look at what is the future of Salisbury's economy, right? Is it going to be what I call a quaint economy, like Berlin? And I think no, it's not. Berlin is wonderful. I love Berlin. It's fantastic. It took everything I could to get my wife to leave Berlin before she spent a bunch of money. And that was great. But the quaint economy is a drive-through economy, eat at the cool restaurant, shop at the little shops, and then move on. You guys have a sizable city. You have a functional downtown. Y'all's economy is a knowledge economy. That's the future of this economy. It's services-based. Healthcare, technology, professional services. These things, advanced manufacturing, where it's intelligent people, or I should say highly educated people making high salaries, working in clean environments with technology. That kind of work. It's dense, but it's clean, and it's based on walkable urban environment. It's not going to be a tourist economy. There's not really a tourist economy that could really blow up here. And it's not a manufacturing economy in the sense that it used to be a manufacturing economy kind of thing. The nation's changed. We all are aware of that. Where I come from, 25% of the population used to be employed by the textile mills up until the early 80s when they all left the country. They just got up and walked away. And we had a serious problem on our hands. And so dealing with that has been what we're doing. We're trying to connect the university to our downtown. Sounds similar, right? We're dealing with the same stuff. But a knowledge economy is the future, and it's a services-based economy. There's the services that serve people here, like restaurants and car washes or whatever, that serve the people that live here and function here. And then the services that can be part of the depot economy, that can connect to the greater economy. Healthcare services, technology services. You can grow substantial businesses in a place like this that have clients all over the world. All over the country or all over the region, whatever that looks like. But these businesses, it doesn't work to do this, to try to recruit these businesses. Right? Traditionally, communities they go after businesses. And businesses nowadays are going after talent. That's what they want. Because businesses are people. It's no longer the case that a business is the building and the infrastructure and the materials and the machines and, we'll just, this people are disposable. They're like cogs in a wheel. That is not the way businesses are. It's not the future of our economy. Everything's based on the people. It's the ideas. It's the innovation. It's the patents. It's the processes. That's what a business is. There's not really much equipment. It's the people. So the businesses are chasing the talent, and what does the talent want? They just want a community. Right? The talent wants to live in a vibrant, compelling, walkable, interesting community. And so what's happening is we've got to change our model to be this. As a community, we need to invest in ourselves. We need to invest in our downtown, make it nice, improve the quality of life, connectivity infrastructure. We need to invest in making the downtown, and we need to get talent involved in that process. The university students are absolutely critical. They are the linchpin in this conversation. We got to get them involved in this process. And then what happens is the businesses will be spawn of that community. They'll move to that community to be around it. And I'll give you some examples of that we're doing in our community. So how do we do this? How do we revitalize the downtown? First is to identify and align the champions. I have met with champion after champion after champion since I've been here. It has been overwhelming and amazing. People on different ends of the spectrum. You know, I met with a business owner downtown who was complaining about having to bring his pickup truck in front of his restaurant to pick up his own trash because he wasn't able to get that service. And I've met, and he was complaining about not having parking, wanting to hang on to a parking lot. And I've met other people on the other end of that spectrum with larger vision about the potential of bringing in significant residential projects that would impact that parking, right? Where's the conflict in that? It's over, some parking spaces located downtown. Well, both of those people have valid points. They're both people we have to invest in and hang on to because they're champions. The people who are doing it, those are the people who you have to invest in, right? Investors and developers. We need to know who are the investors and the developers. Who are the people that are already doing it? Not the hopes of potentially bringing someone else here to do it. Who's already doing it? And we need their buy-in, we need their perspective, and we need to know what they need to be happy and not to walk away. You don't want to go backwards. Entrepreneurs and connectors. I met with a whole group of them this morning. People that have ideas that connect, that keep things moving, that connect other people, that want to invest in something, they want to create a business, they're eager to grow something and participate. They're willing to put in sweat equity or cash, whichever one they have more of. We need to understand who these people are and keep them on board and get them involved. Institutions. And I'm amazed at the level to which this community is already doing that. And then the institutions are critical. City government, county government, the university, the community college, and the K-12 school system, and the chamber. And I'm amazed to the extent that everybody's already on board. Every meeting I've been in over the past 2 days, everybody I've been presenting to, there's representatives from all of these institutions and organizations. And they all are very positively oriented and have great ideas and are pushing to work together and listening to each other. It's been fantastic. So you already have that. A lot of communities do not have that at all. So I give you a lot of credit for that. And it's what you're already doing. It's workshops and interviews and meetings and introducing internet-related communications, and then the next stage you could take this to is project prototyping. Let's talk. What's your project? Don't answer this question. What's your project that you would love to do? If you had the capital, what building are you zero in on and saying, man, if I could only turn that into something like this? Let's get it down and look at it. There might be people in this room that would be willing to help make it happen. Let's prototype potential projects that could happen in the downtown. Now, a second one after your champions would be to create collaborative public-private environment, right? A collaborative environment between public and private sector. So first is streamlining process of government. And I know we have a new employee with the city who's going to help that process. If you have a business and you are experiencing difficulties with the bureaucratic red tape of government, then we need to figure out what that problem is, and we need to get that problem out of your way, right? The primary goal of government in downtown revitalization should be to create an environment where the private sector can flourish, right? We want the entrepreneur to be able to flourish. Now, I don't suggest you pick specific entrepreneurs and give them money necessarily. You create an environment where the entrepreneur can be successful. And then you let capitalism weed out which ones are good at it and which ones aren't. I've gotten sick of hearing people say that, that restaurant closed because we're just not ready yet for a restaurant like that. Or the city should have done more to keep that restaurant open. Well, really I can tell you why a restaurant closed. Had bad food, bad service, and was overpriced. That's why a restaurant closed, right? So it's capitalism. So the other thing is to craft incentives to our current champions. If you're going to talk about creating incentive programs, let's don't create them as an academic exercise or a theoretical exercise. Let's go to the existing champions, the people who have opened businesses and they are successful and they'd love to do it again. They've redeveloped buildings and they'd love to do it again. What do they need specifically? What's in their way? Because if they're going to buy another building and upfit it, let's figure out what's in their way. And let's create an incentive that directly addresses what's in that person's way. Instead of doing it from an academic theoretical standpoint, let's use specific examples and help this person we've identified, this champion, help him or her complete that project by removing obstacles, and then we can provide the same opportunity to other people that would experience those same obstacles. So we abstract it from the single example. We solve it in a single case, and then we turn it into policy. And then facilitate dialogue. This morning I heard a wonderful example where Ryan got the police chief, to come and be in a room and answer questions and talk to 19 different organizations that were complaining and whining about police this, police that, but had no connectivity or communications, and it went fantastic, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and facilitating these types of dialogues makes the community work together. It's easy when you don't know the chief to complain about something that you think the police should be doing. But when you talk to the chief, you start to have a better understanding. First of all, she gets to hear from you. And then secondly, you get a better understanding of why they haven't been able to get to that yet and what obstacles lay in front of them. And you don't accuse, you come at it as trying to be helpful. And the question that needs to be put back to you is, well, then what can you do about it to help?
She's the last person I would complain to.
Okay, point taken. Point taken. I'll move on from the chief then. Point taken. Okay, so identifying champions, creating this collaborative environment between public and private organizations. A master plan. Now, I know sometimes you get planning fatigue because you do this study and you do this study, and it's like, golly, man, we keep doing studies. We need to do something besides studying. I'm tired of studying. We need to do something. And I understand that big time, believe me. But I know there's about to be some infrastructure improvements made in the city, and I'm sure they'll be awesome because they're focused on the main street, and I'm sure any master plan that you would ever create would incorporate those same improvements, so I don't see any conflict in that. I think that's fantastic that Jake and this crowd have been able to get the ball rolling, so kudos to them. Master planning, though, does one thing. I talked to some investors this morning, and they lacked investor confidence to do another project because they're nervous. They're nervous about parking. They're nervous about what might happen to a couple of buildings in particular that could railroad some of the things that they're trying to do. A master plan lets everybody see the future and therefore have confidence to invest in what they're doing because they know, well, I'm going to go ahead and invest in this because beside me is going to be this thing that is in the master plan. And that over the next 10 years, this parking lot is going to be held intact while this one is going to be altered and changed. So therefore, I'm going to make this decision. Right? It allows people to have confidence. Now, that's at the developer-investor level, but it even allows confidence at things like, would you move downtown and buy a condo? Well, in theory, yeah, I think it would be great, but what's it going to be like in 5 years and 10 years? Well, this is what it's going to be like in 10 years. Oh, wow, yeah, I would love to do that. It creates a unified vision that is something that people can invest in creating. And it gets everybody's money going in the same direction. So the private sector and the public sector, you got the cities doing infrastructure improvements based on the master plan, and the private sector is redeveloping buildings or committing to buy or lease something before it's even gone vertical or something based on the master plan. And therefore you create that future because everybody's money starts heading in the same direction. So it's very important. Connectivity infrastructure is the key to master plan. It's all about moving people around. The malls, the reason why malls were successful is because you could drive to a mall and you could park. There's been studies done, all kinds of stuff. Actually, I know Jake and them did some specific things. You run a distance from where you park at a mall inside to the store. If you measure that distance, it's way farther than the parking garage to anything downtown. It's way farther. But you park at the mall and then you go inside and then you walk around and you're there for hours. It is a walkable environment. And you do different things and you stop and you take a break and it's a walkable space. Downtown has to be a walkable space. When you get out of your car, you need to not drive your car all through the downtown all the time, making it harder for people to walk. You need to come there and park like you're going to the mall, and then you need to get out and you need to see the path of least resistance, like water. You need to see where you walk, and it needs to be nice and green and inviting and safe and well lit. It needs to just lead you right into the downtown. And we don't necessarily need to stay focused on how many people we get downtown. That's one metric. But the other metric is how long do they stay? How long do they meander around and go into different stores and go into the coffee shops and hang out? Right? Moving people around is the key. It's the key. The difficulty putting something down on the river right now is because you have to drive there, get out, experience the one thing you went to, get back in your car and drive somewhere else. Downtown, retail's really difficult because you drive, you get out, you go to one store, you get back in your car and you have to drive somewhere else. And people aren't going to do that. The wedding thing's starting to happen a little bit because a girl who's looking at getting married can spend all day in these wedding stores. You know what I mean? All day. So it's a whole adventure. It's a whole day. So it's about moving people around. And connectivity infrastructure is absolutely key. Safe, green, walking, biking, getting the students from the university to the downtown, a trolley, However we connect and move people is absolutely key. Down to the micro level. I mean, how you walk through downtown and everything. And the master plan should be based on that. And then mixed use, including housing. We have to come to terms and understand what the shift that's happened. A radical shift that's not about still being in a recession. It's a change in the housing market. It is connected to the millennial generation and a shift in our culture. Right? First of all, I'm a Gen Xer and I was brought up to believe it is always better to buy no matter what. That is absolutely not true anymore. It's just not true. If you just financially look at it, if you're going to stay somewhere for a couple years and you're going to leave, you're probably better off renting. Right? The millennial generation that wants to move around, they want to be downtown. Not near downtown, where it's a short drive or I could kind of walk, but the infrastructure breaks down. Right? If there's no connectivity infrastructure, you are not downtown. If you walk through a place that doesn't feel like downtown, you have to cross the street, the cars are moving fast, you are not downtown. Living downtown is about renting a nice apartment, $1,000 a month, that's downtown. It's mixed use, it's above other uses, whatever. You can have condos in there too that the baby boom generation would want to buy because they're downsizing and moving into downtown and urban spaces as well. But rental, nice rental. The home ownership being the American dream thing has been our American dream for a long time. And we saw rentals as being bad because, people don't take care of their houses and they'll be transient in nature. But the millennial generation is just not that way. Professionals making good money want to live downtown and rent an apartment. Right? That is the housing that we need in downtown. If you're going to have the hospital, and that's a great asset that you guys have, the hospital right there beside downtown. If you're going to have nurses and doctors living in the downtown until they get married and have children and decide they want a yard, and then they go buy a house that's a little bit off of the downtown. Until that, and they don't know what hospital they'll end up at in 6 years from now, but they're liking it here. They need nice apartments downtown, right? University faculty. That could help recruit university faculty big time. Being able to live in a vibrant downtown. And the hospital and the university are two of your critical institutions for the success of this stuff. Okay, so another one after the master plan is to engage students. And this is a huge one. Engaging students is a big part of this. Remember, my whole critical thing is about recruiting and retaining talent, right? And the talent comes out of the universities. They come from the community colleges too, but they come from the universities in a bigger way. And you have Salisbury University right here. And you have a university that seems to be incredibly bought into, the revitalization of downtown, which is an incredible asset. So how do we engage students? Well, we're doing a couple things in my neck of the woods that I'm working with some communities to replicate. This program that we call the Hive, basically what we do, and this is in Rock Hill, South Carolina, we bring Winthrop University students and York Technical College students, so our community college and our university same size as Salisbury. We bring those students downtown and we train them how to do internet marketing and web design and development for course credit, by doing free projects for nonprofit organizations. So the city gets the benefit of having the students in the downtown. The students get an incredible capstone experience to work on real projects for real clients in a real job-like environment. They get the fun of being downtown off the university. It's something really cool. It's way cooler than going to a class. And they get to give back from a social consciousness standpoint to help nonprofits in some way. And nonprofits, of course, get free websites, so they're loving that. That helps them out a lot. And the workforce community gets trained workforce in a growing industry of internet marketing and web design, web management. So we have every semester, we have all kinds of employers come to the Hive to hear the presentations of the students because they want to hire them. And these students move into employment, and at the top of their resume is that they went through the Hive. It's like their shining star on their resume. And now the Hive moved into a building where there was nothing else in the building. 5-story building downtown, right? The owner of the building lowered market rate price. City paid the lease for 2 years. It was a 3-year project. The community college paid the lease for the 3rd year. The local internet service provider gave us free Wi-Fi for all 3 years. The York Technical College operated the space. Winthrop University paid York Technical College $10,000 a year to let their students participate in it. And a private benefactor, paid my company $40,000 the first year to operate the organization, and we did it for free the second 2 years. So all these people just agreed, all these institutions and organizations, handshakes, agreements, belief in downtown, belief that we'll all benefit. This is not about altruism. This is about aligning agendas, aligning people's strategic agendas, heading in the same direction, right? And we've been able to have a huge success. We were the first person in this building. Now, top floor of the building, Clemson University. Who went to Clemson in here? Somebody told me that. Yeah, there you go. Go Tigers, right? I'm a Gamecock personally, so I can't. Yeah, so I'll let it slide then. Yeah, right. Clemson University brought an incubator into the top floor of the building. 4th floor, an engineering firm moved in there. 3rd floor is the Hive. 2nd floor, a 16-employee software company moved in to be near the talent of the Hive. And bottom floor, opening this month, we've got a coffee shop moving down from Charlotte to be in Rock Hill. It's going to be open 24 hours a day to be around all the youth and students and people that are in that place. Now, that's taken 3 years, but it was a great success, and it was an experiment. I mean, we made a million mistakes. I'd love to do it over again. So that's one thing that we've done. Another is a de Remus. A de Remus is a technology that my company developed where it's a website. Anybody can go on it. It's kind of like software, though, so you need to go on it using Google Chrome. It's more advanced, and you can't use Internet Explorer. It just won't work. But anyway, what it does is it allows you to use Google mapping technologies to select any building in your downtown and identify that building and then prototype what you would do with that space. So it's a crowdsourcing of community development. It lets creative people select a building and describe creatively what they would do there, and then other people can socially engage with that. Comment on it, share it on Facebook, tweet it. They can say, oh, that's a terrible idea, I'd never go. So entrepreneurs use it to pitch their ideas and get social capital around their ideas. Landowners, building owners use it to kind of demonstrate what their properties could be. Economic development people use it to show what could happen in this town. And most importantly, creative citizens of all kinds use it just to participate in the development of their own community. So it's driven from the ground up instead of from the top down. It's a participatory concept. I can't say that word. So what we're doing in Rock Hill is we've got the Masters in Business students from the university working with the economic development staff of the city to select specific buildings that are under control from the city or from the Economic Development Corporation, or from owners that are very motivated, not the absentee landowners that don't want to do anything, but the ones that are here and want to do something. We select these properties, and the students are prototyping business ideas in these spaces for master's credit to give ideas and to demonstrate what could be in these businesses. They're feasibility studies on businesses that could be in Rock Hill. Even if the ideas are terrible, which they're not, they're good. Even if the ideas are terrible, the ideas aren't the point. The point are them. They are the point. If we can get them engaged in the revitalization process, then they will stay here. They will come back here. They will create here. There's something powerful about being engaged, about creating your own future, about being a big fish in a small pond. We get these people access to the mayor and to the city manager and to the president of the chamber. Bless you. They feel like they are part of the process. So we got the Hive students feeling like they're part of the process, the MBA students feeling like they're part of the process, and we want to keep as many of those young, talented people as we possibly can because they are the future of our economy for several reasons. One is because they will create businesses or be independent contractors. Secondly is the baby boomers with the money who are going to eat at the nice restaurants and are going to come down and spend a bunch of money, they come there because of the younger people. A quaint economy, you go there because of the antiques, the shops. A college town, the people go there because of the energy that is in the college town. Right? The youth creates the energy. What's that? Yeah, the older folks come and spend the money. Right? It's a win-win. So, an example, content marketing is about creating awareness of things that you're doing in an authentic way to create authenticity, right, and to build momentum. This is actually what my company does primarily is we do internet content marketing. We do it for all kinds of organizations, hospitals, whatever. I'll give you an example of the hospital. We're doing, they have a bad reputation in our community, but they have radically improved their healthcare services. So how do they improve their perception in the community? Because people remember, they hang on to the past, and they don't accept that now this hospital has a whole new leadership, and they've winning all these awards, and they're doing all this great work, but people are still like, oh yeah, they're not any good. Right? So how do you change that? Well, we're doing an internet content marketing campaign for this crowd to change people's perceptions. And the way we do it is we call it show a little love. Right? So all we do is this. While we're telling the community through social media about the awards they're winning and the new technologies they're getting and all that, and the pedigrees of their doctors and stuff, we're interspersing that in something that people are much more interested in, and that's people. People like people. So what we're doing is we're taking photographs of people that work at the hospital or that engage in and around the hospital, that volunteer or whatever, and we're telling their story, and we're celebrating them and thanking them for the work they do. And people are blowing it up on Facebook. Their friends, their family, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. We love you so much. We'll take a doctor, we'll do a 90-second interview of the doctor saying why he loves Piedmont Medical Center in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and where he graduated and why he moved to Rock Hill. We put it on there, and all these people blow it up. Oh, he delivered my baby. Oh, he delivered my grandbaby. It's about people. You guys have so much going on. Ryan and his project moving into that space, and then all the wedding stuff. What if students came into your downtown and were located in a space and ran it like a business, like they do the radio station? Students run that like a business. What if you had 3 MBA students that were functioning as a CEO, a COO, and a CFO, and they were getting MBA credit to do this, and they were running a business downtown? The business was a marketing company, and the client was the community. And the students came in every semester, and the students were doing Project 1, wedding stuff, right? All the wedding stuff that's going on in Salisbury, people are driving here for wedding dresses. Let's blow that up. Let's get all these women engaged. Let's use Pinterest. Women are all over Facebook and Pinterest. They love that stuff, right? Let's get them engaged about this stuff with Salisbury. Another one, healthcare, the hospital. Let's talk about healthcare and how big of a deal it is and what's going on in the hospital and all this stuff. That kind of stuff. Let's pick things that are the third Fridays, or whatever it's called, third Fridays. Yeah, maybe that's a client. Maybe the chamber's a client. The Beacon, the work that Beacon is doing over at the university, maybe that's a client. You use the students to function like a real business. The students get bought into the community because they're participating in revitalization. They actually serve the community because the work that they're doing is helping meet the outcomes that the community needs, and they get workforce training that they need to be extremely employable in the economy, in this knowledge and service-based economy. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win. It's fantastic. And the university is charged with creating learning experiences for those students anyway, right? They have to create fake learning experiences if you don't have real ones. So we can put them downtown and do this. So the engagement of the students. Now the engagement of the baby boomers, the energy of youth is what engaged baby boomers in a big way. You look at university involvement. There's a big trend right now happening with active adult retirement communities, not to move out to golf courses, but to move into university areas. Because it's cultural and academic life. It's engaging. There's plays and art and learning. And it's a wonderful intellectual life for a retiring person. And retiring baby boomers are well healed, and they've been successful. and they don't want to just go sit somewhere on a porch. So they can engage with the university community, they can mentor and teach and give back and participate. And they can invest. A lot of people tell me you can't create a technology community because you got to go where the money is. And I always answer, the money is everywhere. The money is in baby boomers' bank accounts, right? That's where the money is. You create angel investment groups from the baby boomers. What they get out of it is not only the potential to make money, but more importantly, the opportunity to participate in exciting entrepreneurial activity that improves the quality of life just to participate, right? And be around that youth and energy and that creation process. It's energetic, you know. And then what does the talent get out of it? The opportunity to create their business because they need capital. Traditional lending mechanisms will work too, but angel investment is a big thing to do. Whether it's redeveloping a building, opening a restaurant, or creating a technology app, web app development company or something, whatever it is. So engaging the baby boomers is really the same process as engaging the young people, and it's all about talent. It's all about talent. Now, some baby boomers want to go and live near a quaint economy. Some want to move to a tourism place by the beach, and some want to go on the golf course. That's fine. But increasingly, walkable urbanism is just as attractive to baby boomers as it is to millennials. So, the last one is this: to pencil and implement catalyst projects. Right? Let's see if I have a slide on this. Oh, let me go back. So, if you identify your champions, interview them all, get everybody's kind of opinion, get everybody aligned in the same direction. Here, and you guys have made incredible progress towards that. If you create collaborative and public environment where it's everybody's working together, you do that by being in front of each other. It's hard to criticize people when you're actually sitting across the table from them. We just don't have it in us as much, as we can when they're distant. And you facilitate easy business processes. You try to remove the red tape. You try to get the government out of the way as much as you possibly can for the private sector, right? You create a master plan that's based on walkable urbanism. It's based on moving people around for the purposes of generating investor confidence. So that whether they're, again, just a person who wants to rent an apartment, or whether they are a person who's going to put in $10 million into the revitalization of some building, either way, you build investor confidence by having a master plan. They can see the future. And that gets everybody's money heading in the right direction. Your alignment got everybody's thinking going in the right direction. The master plan gets everybody's money going in the right direction. And that's how you make it happen. You engage the students. How? We've wrestled with it for years. How do we get students downtown? Here's the answer. You tell them they have to go downtown to meet their educational requirements. You move their classroom downtown, and you say, if you're not there by 9, you're late. You know what I mean? Let's just move them downtown. And you get them actually doing the work of revitalization to meet their credit requirements. And then engage the baby boomers. You do that in the same way that you engage the youth. You focus on the talent and the youth, and the baby boomers will take care of themselves. If you build a restaurant like Cellar Door, baby boomers are going to eat there. It's awesome. It's a great restaurant. And then this last one is to take all of this stuff and actually put together some catalyst projects. And I believe that you can do this. You can pencil these things before you even take them vertical. You don't have to do it the way we did it, where you put one thing in a building and, man, you hope and wait that the building will fill itself up. Right? That's the recession model. We're beyond that. There's so much pent-up energy moving towards the downtown. And your institutions will be critical in making this happen. Let me give you an example. Let's say that the university wanted to move downtown, theoretically speaking. Let's say they were willing to buy a space, building, whatever. Let's say they were exploring that idea, right? Let's say that the hospital was looking at doing that. Well, let's use the university just for our case study here. If the university needs X amount of square footage, maybe that equals the entire bottom floor of a building. Right? Maybe there's another organization that wants to move downtown that maybe would take the second floor of that building. And then maybe there are a pent-up demand for residential rentals that could easily do 5 rentals. And then maybe there's a couple people who've already said, passing by me while I sat in the chair in the coffee shop, for example, this morning, theoretically speaking, that they would sell their homes if they had the opportunity to buy something downtown, if it was cool and what they imagined. And so let's say you did condos on the top floor, apartments on the second to top floor, an institution on the second floor, and on the bottom floor you had the university, right? Maybe you opened up the university space to also be a co-work collaborative space so that you had co-work activities going on mixed with student activities. You could bring those people together, get pre-commitments, condoize the bottom floor, sell it to the university, condoize the second floor, sell it to whatever institution that is. Maybe it's county, municipal, whatever it is. You could condoize the top floor because there'll be condos, residential condos, and then you could retain the rentals under the LLC that did the development to be rented by the people who invested in the project. You could get everybody to commit before you even got a hammer out. Sign on the dotted line, have it pre-purchased, pre-invested, piece the whole thing together, make it pencil, and then you'd have no problem getting funding to make this happen. Especially if you did it in some type of building where the city could give something to the project in kind. If they own the building, if they own the space, if they own the something, whatever could make it work. Finding a way to bring these, once you've got these champions all in a room heading in the right direction, you got the master plan, you got investor confidence, you can pick a couple of projects that would be catalyst in nature, that people would say, wow, that's a game changer. And you could put together all the people, and you could pencil the whole thing before you ever even got out any construction equipment at all. And that's completely possible in today's economy and with moving back into our walkable space. So I suggest that the overall thinking that you have about downtown revitalization be a couple of things. First of all, that it's absolutely critical to the future of your economy that you find a way to revitalize your downtown. And that it's not going to be based on a quaint economy or a tourism economy. It's going to be a service-based, operational, functioning economy. Secondly, the only way to do that is through talent recruitment and retention. It's the only way. You've got to have the talent here, the workers, right? And you don't do that by going out and trying to find them. You blow into the center of the balloon. I stole this from somebody, and I can't remember who it was, so I can't give them credit. But if you try to pull out at the edges of a balloon, you can't expand it that way. You blow into the center. That's the way you do it. You invest in your own community. Walkable infrastructure, connectivity, getting the students downtown, get them involved. The businesses will spawn from that, right? This is the overall vision and structure of the development of downtown. And these are the specific elements for the formula, the strategies to move forward, in my opinion. So I'll stop there and turn it over to questions and whatnot. Thank you. Anyone? Yes?
Jason, first of all, thank you so much. This is incredible. I had the opportunity to meet you, but I hadn't heard this presentation before, and I appreciate it. I just want to go back to one thing specifically. The Hive project that you completed in Rock Hill. There's a lot of enthusiasm for co-working spaces and projects like that in Salisbury. And the question is often, how do we make this happen? You mentioned that your company was paid for the first year of work. Talk to us about the second 2 years, the second and third year, and how you did that without being compensated, and what the benefit was to you.
The only way I was able to do that without being paid was because my office is in Rock Hill, and Rock Hill is my town. And but it's not, again, just altruism. I benefit. I mean, we have like 4 employees that were Hive students. It's a recruiting mechanism for us. It's a farm system. I'm working with a national hospital owner right now. A corporation that owns 50 hospitals, and we're pitching a huge project for them. And if we do the project, we're going to need to hire 5 writers to do the project immediately. And I don't want to hire full-time W-2 employees for one job. What if we lose it? What if we, after a year, don't have anymore? I don't want to fire people, and they go backwards. So I'll start by contracting these people. Well, where in the world do I find these people? Well, because I've run the Hive for 3 years, I know exactly where to find these people. They're waiting in the wings to work for my company. They're like waiting to hear if we have enough work. So it's for talent recruitment for my own company is the reason why I run the Hive, and because I'm very much engaged, just like you guys are, in the revitalization of my own town. So a model to do that here, you have to have a local champion in some way. Now, what I am, I guess you'd say pitching to towns that I visit is the option of us helping you start that type of program. But the goal of that would be to work us out of the equation. Like if it's a first year or something, that's fine. But you'd want to work us out of the equation because it's going to be expensive to have us come and implement and operate that program for you. And ideally, you would want it to be all about handover, training, process, kind of handoff, to where after the first year it operates without a company like ours who needs to get paid, or we can't survive if we don't get paid to do that. And then you have local champions. Let's say somebody who's employed by the university or employed by the economic development department of the city, who's basically facilitating and running that program. If you had the way they run the radio station at the college, I mean, the students run it, but there's got to be somebody over it that is an employee of the university. You structure it like that, where you hand it over to a systematic and programmatic process where new students come in and run it, but you basically have a single kind of entity that's over it. And you work us, if we were to help you or whoever, you work us out of the equation within the end of the first year. So in Rock Hill, we kept running it, but we just moved to do it for free because there wasn't anybody who was willing to pay the check to keep paying us to do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
As a broad picture, I think this is really smart. I think it's very, very, and I think it appeals especially to Salisbury, as you said, with the university and the hospital and all the pluses in the community. On a real smaller scale, it seems like in the downtown area specifically, parking could be considered an issue. To bring someone downtown, in other words, to bring students down here to do the Hive, the first thing you're going to be looking at is they may have to park somewhere.
Right.
I never forget that a company that was working downtown, they moved out of this area, and they had a building outside of the city downtown area. And one of the employees, the first thing that she said was, "It's so nice just to be able to get out of my car and walk into the office."
Right, yeah.
Is that any part of the formula?
Yeah, it is. It's a huge part of the formula because there's a huge disconnect on whether or not you have a parking problem. And there's validity to both sides of that argument, very much so. In some ways, it's a parking problem. In some ways, there's absolutely not a parking problem. I mean, I've never seen so many parking lots in my life.
I mean,
parking debt. Right, yeah, right. But there's validity. There's validity to that. And think about it this way: it's about moving people around. If you are going to go to one place, it doesn't feel good to park on the outskirt of the downtown and walk to one place and then walk back and then drive away. If you're going to go to one place where you used to strip mall development, you pull right into the parking lot, right in front of the place you're going, you get out and you go in. And that's what people prefer. But if you're going to the mall, if you're only going to one store in the mall, that is a pain. You got to park way out, you got to walk way into the mall, you go to that one store and then you leave. But that's why people don't usually go to the one store in the mall. They stay there for hours. So until the downtown, in the future, you don't need parking lots everywhere. You don't need to park right in front of where you're going. You'd have it on the outskirts. Parking garage will become full and banging. It's a great solution because it goes vertical. It doesn't take up a lot of surface area in the future. But right now, until you hit a critical mass or some type of tipping point to where people can go to multiple places and stay downtown for hours, it is going to be a thorn in people's side to not be able to park in front of where they're going.
I really should have stressed paid parking.
And paid parking.
The process of keeping the ticket and then giving it to them and making sure you have the money. Because if you were to have a Hive down here, I think the first thing the students would say was, "Well, where do I park?"
Yeah, right. Well, so I first of all, I'm not a big fan of meters on the street at all. But you do need temporary parking because you can't have the people that work in the offices take up the temporary spaces all day long, and then there's nowhere to park for the retail spaces. So how do you balance having temporary parking but not having meters? And the way you do that is with 2-hour parking, but not necessarily with a ticket, but that means an employee. We have a good old Stanley. Of course, it's part of good community stuff. Stanley walks around, everybody knows Stanley. Hey, Stanley, what's happening? Stanley walks around with this bent thing with a piece of chalk on the end of it, right? And he marks the back of your tire. And if you're there 2 hours later with that chalk on your tire, he'll give you a ticket, right? And if you catch him, you can talk him out of it usually. So basically, having Stanley is a benefit to our community. It makes it feel community friendly and all that kind of stuff. And I can just park and get out. I don't worry about it. I don't have a ticket. I'm not in a closed space. We have on the street is 2 hour, and then in the parking lots, the stuff that's closer to the businesses is 2 hour. So it forces people that are going to park and be there all day to go in the garage or the back end of the parking lot, which is fine, because if you're going to be there all day, you should be able to walk to there and stay there all day and then walk back to the car. But when people are pulling in, so I've heard this conversation about the parking lot that's right there across from the Gatewood Plaza, and people saying that would harm the businesses right there if you didn't have that parking lot right there. And my first reaction was, they were like, well, you have to come all the way from the garage. And I'm like, but isn't the garage right there? And they were like, well, yeah, but still. But there's validity in that argument. There's validity in that argument because there's handicapped people coming through, which is important to the government agency stuff there. And there's elderly folks walking through that thing. And there's not a critical mass of things going on downtown to where you would have the mall effect where you can park and then walk a while, but then you're in the environment there for hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just hit where I was getting ready to go. Annapolis has this manufacturer downtown, the Annapolis Town Center, and their solution has been, because they have that critical mass of a number of places people want to go, they have very limited street parking. They have garage parking that's outside of the area. You can't even see it. But they have valets at each end of it. It costs you $2 to park the car. You pull up to the tent, you give them $2.
That is awesome.
They park your car. They have a covered tent that's heated or cooled or whichever the case needs to be. That you stand out of the elements while they go and fetch your car when you come back. $2.
So I would suggest that when you look at your master planning, what you would do is you would phase the parking equation. At first, the first phase would not be to eat up all the surface parking with development stuff. It would be about revitalizing existing buildings and filling them and leaving the parking where they are. Maybe go ahead and get rid of the meters, but make them 2 hour. Potentially hire the guy with the chalk so you don't have to close them in, whatever. But and then I would have it be your 20-year plan. That you don't want to take up a block with surface parking in 20 years. That's just a horrible use of space. You want to go vertical and have much better space usage. But if you come in right now and first thing you do is take over a parking lot, that the mindset of the people who are already spending their money in redeveloping buildings is that you're ruining their private investment by doing this, you're going to create more of a problem than you are a solution. Because those people are people you have to have on your team. They're the people who will do the next project. They're already talking about the next project. Yeah.
You haven't mentioned water, the river. Any aspects of that you want to do?
I think the river could be an incredible asset to you guys, but one or two things has to happen in my opinion. Either you have to have a river district or you have to connect it to the downtown. And the only thing that can connect it is walkable infrastructure. Because there's a phenomenon that happens with people. People will walk for miles as long as it feels like downtown the whole way. Connected buildings, walkable sidewalks, slow cars. When I go down to Charleston, South Carolina, with my wife, my family, we will walk for 5 miles. But in Rock Hill, I'll walk 3 blocks to City Hall, but I won't walk 3 blocks to the station, this is a restaurant, because in the middle it breaks down. We have to cross the railroad tracks, the cars are going fast. You lose that infrastructure. So you're either going to have to connect the two, which is a monumental project, or you would have a river district that would start to develop. Now, river districts can develop, one of two ways. You have a manufactured river district that's high-end, which is hard to fill, because it's hard to get those Class A office and Class A residential rates that you need to make that whole project pencil to make it afford to be able to do that type of development, right? You got to bring in an anchor tenant. You might have to look at some type of big box maybe or something that just gets complicated. If you had Class C space where you have kind of some crappy buildings, that would be great. Don't tear down your bad buildings and don't necessarily go and upfit them all. Right, because the bohemian-esque entrepreneur who wants to give it a go with some idea that they have that creates a lot of culture with the youth, they need a cheap place to set up shop. Right? So one project I would put before any of your urban planning students, if you have them here, or urban planning professionals is, can we build $8 square foot property? Or are we going to have to build $18 square foot property? If we build $8 square foot property, is it sheetrock, bad carpet and whatever panel? Is that what it is? If it is, nobody's going to want to be in that. Is it stained concrete and exposed brick walls and cool new urbanist space for $8 square foot? Then you can manufacture yourself a nice little river district. But if you can't solve that problem, then the river district won't come for a while, because you don't have the critical mass downtown to support the high-end retail that it's going to take to have that type of river district. I think the river is an enormous asset. But, I also heard a comparison in residential. I heard somebody say to me this morning that their argument against building residential downtown was that there's still some open residential spots in that place that was built by the river.
For sale.
Okay.
299, I think.
There's a
I
one.
live there.
Okay.
There's 4 penthouses and 2 condos over there. I mean, it's really nice.
Which is incredible. So that has worked. But my argument was, even when I didn't know that and I thought there was empty ones there, my argument is that the buying a condo on the river is something very different than renting an apartment in the walkable downtown. They are two radically different things. So the river is going to be its own kind of district. If you had that many people living there, you could probably build around those residentials and create a little river district. Some restaurants, some things for the people who live there to do, and that could be upscale to development. But until you'd probably have to do that type of development. Either you got a wonderful investor who's willing to build and then wait, or you're going to have to get the tenants, the commercial tenants ahead of time, the retail commercial tenants ahead of time to commit coming in there, and you probably need some type of name that would bring other tenants, like at least a regional chain of some kind. You know? Yes, sir.
I understand our discussion here, and it seems as though in the paper and the other areas, the problem that we have downtown is we have too much parking. And you might be interested in knowing how we got to this particular point. 30 or 40 years ago, we patterned ourselves after Silver Spring, Maryland, which had embarked upon a new concept, and that was creating parking areas through a special tax district, which meant that we did implement in Salisbury, Montgomery County, the authority to develop what we call special tax districts. So we did this in Salisbury, and it was quite successful. We taxed the merchants as well as the property owners, and it was so successful that we found ourselves, after we developed the parking lots that we determined that we wanted, that we were creating a surplus. Well, the surplus was used when we ran across a property that was derelict or was below standards or what have you, and rather than letting it stand there, the parking district would acquire that and put it in temporary parking. And that was the process that developed all that we have today. So we have the parking garage, and we have the remains of 2 urban renewal projects, R17 and R19, which created the large parking lot on this Camden Street here, and then what we call Greeniest parking lot, which was by the old firehouse there. And that was it. And then one other property on Route 50 over there behind Benjamin's, and that was created. And that was probably pretty adequate for our parking needs at that particular time. But rather than just having properties that were slums, as a matter of fact, you'd be interested in knowing that we're actually migrant housing on part of the properties that were acquired by the special tax district. So that's how we accumulated those properties. And it's a wonderful problem to have when you have an area like downtown Salisbury, when you have spaces that are available for a plan that was developed. The plan was downtown would be a government center. So when we built the government buildings, lo and behold, we already had the land cleared for it.
Right.
When the state wanted to build their building down there, lo and behold, the city already owned the property or had access to it. So the plan, what you see here is a plan that's evolved over a period of 30 or 40 years here. And the problem that we have is not too much parking. It is just that some of the properties that are for future use are in temporary parking right now.
Gotcha.
So I would advise us as a group to not use too much parking downtown as a problem, because it's not. It's an opportunity.
Oh, I hear you. I think that's a great point. I think that as you build out your master plan, you turn those parking lots back into some building and make sure that you offset the loss of parking to keep adequate parking the entire time. I think that's fantastic. And if you're able to develop in 2 lots without hitting a parking problem, without having to add more parking. We have a problem in Rock Hill. If we build on a parking lot, we got to build another parking lot because we don't have a surplus of parking at all, So every time we build a building, we got to build a garage. It's double the expense. So that's a good point. Yes.
I'd be interested in your insights on sort of the evolution of downtown Renaissance. You mentioned Berlin, for instance, and I'm one of those baby boomers that remembers long ago enough when Berlin, there wasn't really much there. They really didn't have much. And sort of the epicenter of that Renaissance was the Atlantic Hotel.
Huh.
And there was a group of developers that saw potential there. It was a dilapidated building, and nobody had been in it for a long time. They sunk a lot of money into it and turned the building into a nice hotel, nice restaurant. And essentially the Renaissance of Berlin, and it was one of those quaint little towns you mentioned, grew from that point and evolved around that particular center.
Yeah.
But as you recognize with Salisbury, it's quite a bit different than Berlin. How would you suggest a Renaissance here take place sort of geographically? Would there be like one epicenter? Would we want to identify a few? If we really do have the ability to incentivize and bring students in, or maybe control or focus streetscape work in one area, would we want to identify certain areas? Would we want to identify one?
It's a great question.
Just shotgun it and just hope what happens where it happens.
That's a great question. I don't think you shotgun it, but I do think that the three primary districts would be, some type of river, some type of capitalizing on the river, some type of river district, the downtown proper, the place that feels like downtown, and then the university. So if there's a connectivity master plan based on how those things are going to interact, at first it might be running a rubber wheel trolley from the university to the downtown. At least there's connectivity. But over time that can evolve. The river, same thing. It might be some kind of thin connectivity in the beginning, but that will evolve. And I think there's kind of two forces at play. One is where you get the major, a group of people that can get together, that some of the groups I've met with already, to put together a catalyst project. They have the wherewithal. They have access to city leaders. They have the institutions involved. They have the bank's attention. They've got everything they need to do some type of big project. So that's one thing that's going on, while you have the people of power and access putting that together. But you have to create ways where the kind of more bohemian entrepreneur who's not tapped into that environment, that system, can open something and give it a shot, create something cool, and see how it goes. So if you have some places that you have really low, subsidized even, rent, where you can create a clustering of that. In Asheville, I'm from Rock Hill, but I lived in Asheville for 9 years, Asheville, North Carolina. And the North Lexington is where the prostitutes used to hang out under the bridge, and the heroin addicts, and they had a methadone clinic and all this stuff, right? Well, as you walk up North Lexington, it would get more and more bohemian as you went, and the rates got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And then you had all these young people opening all these cool stores, like little hippie stores and stuff, where people want to hang out, right? And little bars and music venues and stuff like that. Well, they revitalized that area because they just kept getting more and more energy and more stuff down there, that the people with more money kept moving up, and they basically gentrified out the bohemian folks by redeveloping that whole thing, capitalizing on the energy that the bohemian folks created. Where did the bohemian folks move? They moved down by the river because there were old warehouse spaces that were cheap. I'm talking super cheap. And they could turn it into whatever they wanted to. And they created art galleries and all kinds of stuff. And all that energy moved down there. Well, now same thing's happening. Last time I went to the art district, you got brands moving in there. You got big people that are coming in and doing $1 million upfits in these spaces because they want to be around that energy. So the people with the money follow the talent and the energy. So if there's a way to, first of all, do the catalyst projects with the people who have the money and the access. But then if there's a way to get the young people involved, then the people with the money that are smart entrepreneurs will follow those young people and build and develop around their energy, because they're the catalyst for the success of their entrepreneurial projects. So that's why it's so critical, I think, to get the students and to bring them into any place you want to develop. You bring the students down in there, you get all these young people hanging out and happening, and then somebody's going to open a coffee shop, and then somebody's going to open that kind of thing. So I would say you have three areas: the university, the downtown, and the river, and you come up with a master plan that's about connectivity and moving people around. And then your process for revitalizing each of those districts is about, one, doing the people with access, doing catalyst projects, and the other is just trying to get energetic young people and encourage bohemian entrepreneurialism. Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You've been on our plaza.
Yes.
So regarding that portion of our downtown footprint, do you have any suggestions for that particular area based on other downtowns that you've seen? Leave it the same, radical change, let small changes? I mean, do you have any quick thoughts on
I
that?
think one interesting thing would be, again, looking at the moving people around, is the ability to get from one block to the other without going through a building. I know that's great that y'all put that plaza passway through there because it lets you at least get from one side to the other. But if it was open courtyard, it would be, I think, better. Also, the street that has the coffee shop and everything on it is a real cool street. I think your eventual master plan would be to not have any cars on that street at all.
No traffic at all?
That's my opinion. If you go to Burlington, Vermont, their main street that everybody hangs out on, there are no cars allowed on that street.
Is it open and closed at certain times, or is it always?
Well, they have these 3 poles that block anything.
Yeah, like Bourbon Street is.
Yeah,
open,
yeah.
But then they close it, obviously. during-
Right. Well, Burlington's is always closed, but they can move those things so that if they needed to drive something, they wouldn't have to rip them out of the ground. You know, they have it for function. For if they need to move those things out of the way and drive a car, they could. But that street is nothing but walkable. Now, the intersecting streets on it, you're driving. But it's really slow mile per hour. So I would say that, other thing is, like the Salisbury University brought the art gallery down there. Well, I would say that that's fantastic that they took the first step of getting the university downtown, and kudos to the professor who made that happen. I would say, though, that anything that you do should be based on people. And an art gallery is almost always empty. Art galleries are great, but they're almost always empty. You can have an event in them or something, you try to get people in there. So what you can do is you can have art. There could be art around the walls right now. This could be an art gallery that we're in. Why not? We could actually be at work right now, at desks, and this could be an art gallery. A co-work space, a student operations center, and an art gallery. These things aren't exclusive for one another. You can use space in a lot of different ways, but the most important way to use space, especially right now, is to have people in it. No matter what, have people in it. So I would say that any opportunity to take any space that you have and put people in. If you have a landlord, not the absentee landlords, but the ones who want to see something happen and they're here and they've got an empty space, let's put people in it temporarily just for fun. When you have a downtown event, let's let people open up a crafts booth inside an empty storefront. Or 6 of them, 6 craft booths inside an empty storefront. Let's fill the space with people any opportunity that we have. So that, as far as the infrastructure of the place, I would say that's something that would need to be studied. But I would start that whole project with moving people around in a safe, clean way. And I know you're doing some lighting and you're doing some cool stuff, so that all fits into that. I don't know if that really answers your question much. But
It's not an easy question. But
It's not. Yeah.
While we had you.
I would ditch the parking meters, and I would take the traffic off of that West Main Street, and I would phase the parking issue, not to lose your champions and people set in. The argument about parking always boils down to this: do we have a parking problem or do we have a walking problem? But you can't convince people that think we have a parking problem to walk that it's a walking problem, and you can't convince people on the other side. You can't do that. So you phase it. But where we want to get to eventually is we don't want to take up large pieces of real estate with surface parking. It's a waste of space.
You talk about moving people around. As one of the organizations downtown that has the most traffic, which is the public library, we've been trying to do some of these things. Where do you see an organization like that playing a role in some of the things you've done here?
I tell this to every community that I talk to who is looking at doing a new library, and that's pretty much all of them. Somebody is going to lead the nation in defining what a library is now, because a library is not what a library was. Somebody is going to lead the nation in that idea, and the more you can have students involved in that process. If you have some joint project with the university, whatever, if you do studies on libraries or whatever you do, and you create some type of library that is what libraries should look like now, that could be one of your catalyst projects. That could get national attention and news. If it's different enough from what I mean, if you just put more computers in it, that's not going to work. But changing what a library is something somebody needs to solve, and any community is just as likely as any other community to do that. It just takes somebody who's going to champion it in support of these folks. It's not like New York can figure that out or Boston can figure that out better than you can.
Actually, in some ways they can't, because they're tied into the old school.
Excellent point.
The old school research library.
Yeah.
Whereas a community like this is much more open. But, wanting to be engaged, but yet still being a nonprofit governing organization, we straddle in both fence.
Yeah. I would say that, obviously, like you said to me earlier this morning, the mission of the library is the same, about access to information and facilitation of the use of that information. But the new paradigm is people, not the information. The information is ethereal. You can access it through portals or wherever. It's about people. How do we move people in and out of the library? How do we get them functioning in activity in the library? If you can solve that problem, let me know. Yes, ma'am.
Your vision of planting the seeds of investment is terrific. I love the idea of going inside the bloom, and I agree with it. But when you talked about your transition in Rock Hill, you mentioned about getting past the methadone clinic and the drug addicts and that kind of thing. How did you address the issue of vagrancy, which I'm guessing that you had just as we have here?
Vacancy of commercial space?
Vagrancy.
Oh, vagrancy. Oh, that was in Asheville more than it was. That wasn't in Rock Hill. Rock Hill's always been very conservative and buttoned up, and that would have never existed. Actually, we had a guy who created a homeless. It's not a shelter. It's a program to help homeless men move back into self-sustainability in our environment and economy, and wanted to bring it downtown. And there was a lot of opposition to it because it was going to increase traffic of homeless folks in the downtown. There was a big stink about it. People didn't want that in. It made it a less attractive environment and all that kind of stuff. So it really brought out an interesting debate. Asheville let capitalism solve the problem. They had nonprofit organizations that helped those folks, but as the place started getting more and more energized, the rent started getting higher and higher, the nice places came in and took over, and it just basically drove those people out of there. Problem is, where did it drive them to? I mean, what about those people? Yeah. So the question comes down sometimes to gentrification. I don't know about vagrancy in terms of homeless or burglary downtown. I think well-lit areas, community policing from your chief, where she knows everybody. Like in the coffee shop this morning, she came in and everybody went, "Hey, chief!" That kind of thing is the answer there. But as far as gentrification, we have to be careful not to just move everybody out that can't afford to be part of the new future of the economy. So we have a program in Rock Hill called Weed and Seed, where what we do is we take community policing, meaning that they walk around and get to know everybody's mamas and grandmamas and everything, so it's harder to have crime in that sense. And then we have a first home ownership policy, because what I was saying about rentals and all that stuff, that doesn't apply as much in that situation. It's not the new mobile economy of the millennial who is graduated from college. It's somebody who wants to stay in their community, but their community is ridden with problems. So we want to get rid of the problem folks. So the community policing and the new home buyer process, and we have a program where the city can come help fix up your property, and there's a lot of incentive and all this stuff, and then the landowners of those properties get some type of tax back on other properties they own or something. It's pretty complicated, but it's allowing those communities to build themselves up without being gentrified. So those are two things I've seen successful. One is just capitalism can drive them out, and you have a gentrification process. Or you invest in helping a community raise up. And I think you're going to have a combination of the two. You can't fool yourself and say everybody that's there now is going to be there in 10 years. It's just not going to happen. Your rates are going to go up. It's going to be more expensive. More people are going to move in, and people will get pushed out.
Jake, did you want to add one?
Robbie's going to choke me if I take too long. I promise not to. Let's try and
We have 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll take less than that. One other thing about Asheville, Jason, is that talking to the mayor and council down there, one of the things that they noticed also over their 25-year path is that not everybody left. The vagrancy problem was simply dwarfed by the success.
Exactly.
So, if they had 100 people downtown that maybe they saw as undesirable, well, now they've got 1,000 people. They might still have the 100, but they've got 1,000 people who are contributing.
Great point.
So that was just one caveat.
And actually, it's hard to tell the difference sometimes. A lot of the bohemian, but I like that. That's why I go there. That's why, and I spend money when I'm there. So, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
If you had to list your top 10 favorite towns that have revitalized or you want to go see, what would you suggest we take a hike and look at?
Asheville, North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. I think Berlin's a close one to go look at in the quaint economy aspect. And I guess let me use those instead of listing a bunch. Let me use those and tell you why. Asheville happened in an organic, bohemian, capitalistic kind of way. Greenville was very intentional. Big money came in. They decided they were putting in a corporate headquarters right there. Individuals put up millions and millions of dollars. They forced it to happen, and it succeeded. And then Berlin is that kind of what every small little town, smaller than you guys, can be if they wanted to. They can be a quaint, little, cute, cool downtown.
Are you familiar with Westchester, Pennsylvania? They did this a lot around the university there.
Oh, okay. I'm not.
They built the town basically embraced the school.
Yeah. Most of the towns I go to haven't done it well yet. I guess that's why they invite me.
Let's give Jason.
Thank you.